Hey there, Knicks fans. How you doing? It's your boy, GMAC, Andrew Claudio here with another episode of the Knicks Film School Podcast, filling in for the one and only JMAC, I guess, Johnny Mac. Mr. Macri is on vacation at the most wonderful place on earth. I don't know if that's still the slogan for Walt Disney World, but it is now. And joining me for this episode, a reunion of sorts, a remix of our old podcast, Mr. Jeremy Cohen. If your football team won today, give me a hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah, baby. I don't know what this is like. Two competent football franchises here in the Big Apple. And no, I'm not including that team in Canada, Mr. Stacey Patton. That was good to wake up to, I assume, Jeremy.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's great. Listen, the Giants are undefeated when it comes to playing in London.
They're really?
Fantastic. 3-0. Yes.
Oh, wow.
Yep. 3-0. They won the inaugural one against the Dolphins. They won the second one. Mm-hmm. So Daniel Jones, that gutsy drive, who knows what the future is going to be, but this is fun. And take the wins as, we can. It's been rough.
100%. And as a struggling Jets fan who has become more and more apathetic over the years, I get it. Tua was out. Teddy Bridgewater played one play. Xavier Howard was out. The Dolphins were very shorthanded, and they made it interesting for 2.5 quarters. Seeing a 40-17 in the Jets' favor is just not something I'm used to, and like a convincing 40-17. So good stuff all around for our other teams. We are recording this at 6:17 p.m. on Sunday night, which means there's another sports team in town. But I stopped watching baseball years ago. So I'm not even sure what that would have to do with this podcast. But if potentially I end up putting that game on later and you want my reaction, you can follow me on Twitter and you will know what that reaction was in the future. We'll see. You
can either see a man celebrating or a man crying.
Or my man dying. I texted a JD from Knicks Fan TV has been bugging me the last 3 days. Just like, you stopped believing in this team. I was like, what team are you talking about? I don't know who you're referring to. And it was simply, it's either going to be like a jubilant tomorrow, or it's going to be like, might jump off the drug's neck kind of day, So we'll see. Sure. But the Knicks,
it's very serious for a team that you don't even realize exists.
Listen, maybe I just want to go swimming,
Yeah.
Who knows? But the Knicks, on the other hand, are another New York team that won some basketball games, or at least games over the last week. And as always with preseason basketball, there are cause for overreactions. And, we did a town hall, not a town hall. Well, a couple weeks ago we did a Spaces. Wow, I'm old. Forgot what the name was. Hosted by Sean and Chris yesterday. And it was full of all the great preseason overreactions. So Jeremy and I thought we would add a few of our own. He has 3. I have 2. We're going to do our 5 biggest preseason overreactions through 2 games. And I thought it'd be good to let the man himself take it away with the first one. So Jeremy, it's not that you're more prepared for me. I just genuinely have 2 big overreactions because I put my first and second one and combined them together. So Jeremy, why don't you go first with the first overreaction?
Sure. So the first one I'm going to talk about is the play of Julius Randle. So, here's the thing. Obviously, Randle was not the player the Knicks needed him to be last year. It's very clear. And I think the real thing for me was a reason why it took me as long as it did to get to the point of, all right, if it takes the Bucks first to move him, I get it. Do it. Obi Toppin exists. The reason it took that long is because I felt if he can just do a little bit less while Jalen Brunson and other players do a little bit more. I don't want to say the sky's the limit because it doesn't seem to be the case, but if you can at least make Julius not a glaring negative, then your team is certainly going to improve. And obviously the shot isn't there, which ultimately is going to be very much of a make or break for him. But listen, if he's working on defense, if he's running up the floor and actually pushing in transition, if he recognizes I don't have to take over, I think that we're looking at a team that actually has the potential to get closer to its ceiling. Now, I don't think the ceiling is much higher than that of a first round exit. And that's okay because this team is young for the most part. So I think it's not an overreaction to look at Julius and say that this version of Julius is the one that we plan on seeing later this year, because it felt like he was taking over games last preseason. And this time there's still things to work on 100%, but I see a more invigorated Julius who cares about his role, and I'd like to move past it. I'm sure he would too. I hope a lot of fans just are willing to move on. And again, even if you feel like Julius is not long for this team, supporting him is, I'm not saying don't boo. If you want to boo, go for it. But in my opinion, supporting him to the point where he's able to perform, and it's on him to perform first and foremost, but helping that, being a little bit more positive, I think that can get the gears in motion for him either having a good role here or him playing his way onto another team.
It's interesting you bring up Julius Randle, because it just, first of all, Friday night, because I was doing the post game and I wanted to focus on his contributions. Was he forcing stuff? Was he like, it's my turn with the offense? And that first half, I'd argue he was perfect. Like his 3-point shooting was obviously not there. He was 1 of 5 from 3, but it was like 3 of 7 overall. He had was filling the stat sheets with rebounds and assists. He wasn't forcing any shots. Anytime he did feel like it's time for me to go get a bucket, he went to the rim to get it. All of his threes were off of catch and shoots, and they just weren't falling, which is something that's going to have to be fixed. But I thought he looked like he was comfortable being the third creator on the court and was fine with RJ and Brunson kind of running the show. And it was like a breath of fresh air that I don't know if it's the same for him. I'm not going to pretend I'm inside his head, but if it's I don't have to be the only thing that succeeds in order for this team to succeed, and if he's actually fine accepting that role. Now, then the second half happened in that third quarter. It seemed like, now I've seen, and shout out to Chris who brought this up on the spaces, and was in the third quarter, it seemed like Julius said, it's my turn to run the offense. Let's get me some stats. And I honestly thought that it was a concerted effort because he was bringing up the ball and Brunson was on the other side of the court when they would. I thought that because it's preseason, they wanted to see what it was like if Julius ran the offense for a little bit, which is fine. It's preseason. Who cares? But that's when the Knicks had their worst stretch of the Pacers game. And then it led to the fourth quarter when we got the Obi Toppin show. And this leads right into my first overreaction. This Obi Toppin Julius Randle thing is not going away. And if Obi Toppin's going to play like this, man, the fan base arguing about it on Twitter is one thing. There's going to be a decision that has to be made pretty soon. And look, we talked about this whole offseason about how John obviously came out and said they need to trade Randle. You are now in the camp of they need to trade Randle, even though it stinks that it might have to be for a lesser than desirable trade package. What's up?
No, I was going to say it's more that based on if it's the play of last year that he's replicating, then I'm still on the, hey, let's use a first round pick, the Bucks pick to attach to move to Randle. If you to find the right, so many different situations have to be right. If you want to be under the cap, you want to look for expiring salary. If you don't, then you want to look for a contract that's, just different in nature, depending on what you want. But if we're seeing the type of play that you're describing, then I'm not in favor of attaching a first to do it. It's more of a, let's wait and see, because if he's going to keep playing like this, then you can get closer to that just strictly neutral asset play.
I guess my point is more that if he's okay being the third option, which doesn't require the ball as much and doesn't need him to create as much, Obi Toppin can do that. And from what we've seen through 2 games, a lot more efficiently, a lot more just human highlight reel involved with it. And as much as that doesn't necessarily matter, 2 points is 2 points, whether it's a bully ball layup from Randle or a dunk through the legs, which was awesome from Obi Toppin. But you don't have to worry about, did I call Obi's number for enough plays in this like 5-minute stretch? He's fine just being opportunistic with his points. And look, I don't think he's going to be like, he made 4 threes on Friday night. I don't think he's going to be able to do that consistently. I don't think he's going to be a 54% 3-point shooter throughout the season. I don't put it past him to be a 36, 37% 3-point shooter, which imagine if all those open looks for Randle in the first and third quarter were Obi's then, which if Obi's going to keep playing like this, then this is going to become a thing where the Knicks are better if Obi Toppin's playing over him. And that might force some things to happen. And I don't know what this front office does. I'm at the point where I do not know if it's a priority to them. I know, like, we have John, we have Chris, we have informed people that are telling us it is. And like, I honestly, have you heard anything? I know you have like Lord Ferris?
I haven't heard what
you have your birdies out there. Is that what it's called?
Yeah. I have not heard what they have heard. Okay. All I'll say is this, in terms of the way I see it with Obi and with Randle, right? I look at the starting 5 and you obviously have your point guard in Brunson, and whether it's Fournier or Grimes starting, the way that either of them is going to be played based on how Tibbs seems to like it is make this guy very much of a catch and shoot player. Have him spot up a lot, not a ton of creation on ball. You've got RJ who's able to be RJ, and he can thrive off of someone like Brunson because he's higher usage and he commands the attention. And then at the 5, you have Mitchell Robinson, who it's great if he's able to incorporate more post-up options. He's very much a play finisher. He's not someone you want to trust to really run much offense through. Unlike Hartenstein, who obviously you do want him as more of a secondary playmaker. And the way I see it with Obi is that I wonder how Obi's role, like let's say you just removed Randle from the equation. If you put Obi in that spot, do you have enough creation or creators on the floor at that moment? And I really don't know if you do. I'm a little skeptical about it. And then it goes to the idea of like, okay, well, can you also, what if you're also swapping Mitch out? Not even like, again, do the same thing. Let's pretend Mitch is not there. You put Hartenstein in there as well, a player like him. Then you're talking about, all right, well, at least you get someone with the 1, someone with the 3, and someone with the 5 who can do more. So the players at the 2 and the 4 can be creative. It's not that they can't make plays. Like we know Fournier has done fine as a secondary or tertiary playmaker. We know Grimes, he played point, I believe, at Houston for a year. It's not like Obi can't do anything. It's more just if you are at the NBA level, trusted by Tibbs to do it. And I don't know if he's going to view those types of players in those roles as doing it. And that's why I think Obi does so well, especially when he's off the ball. He's an incredible cutter. If he's able to, as you're saying, like he missed threes and he had an air ball in game 1. But the second game, he was doing a nice job. If you can find a happy medium between the two, and he's again, like 35% from 3, that's a nice step up, especially in year 3, even if he's an older player. But just to go back to it, I wonder how it works where if you are replacing Obi and Randle from not so much a sharing the ball standpoint, but an able to create at a consistent level where Randle just is a better creator. He's a better playmaker and facilitator. And I think that's fine because the fact that Mitch doesn't do much. So then it becomes the question of if you were to swap out someone at the 5, are you then more comfortable having Obi in there? And that person at the 5 is able to do more with the ball. I really don't know. That's just where I see it, where if something happens where Randle is unable to play and Obi fills in for him and there's the rest of the starting 5, let's see how it goes. Until then, I'm thinking of what Tibbs likes and what the Knicks want. And it's not that the Knicks don't want to prioritize Obi long-term. I mean, certainly hope they do at least. It's more about fitting him with the right players that help him pop even more. And I think that's where someone like Hartenstein can really help him blossom for the time being.
The fitting what Tibbs likes part of that statement is not going to go over well. And look, I know I'm filling in for John right now, but I'm not going to be of course we have to fill. I'm not going to be the Tibbs apologist because I also don't think John is at the point of, I think he's like not come all the way to our side. I just think he understands Tibbs had a bad year last year. John, correct me if I'm wrong. Like he's been very critical of Tibbs over the past few months. I think at the same time, I think anybody with eyes, like Zach Lowe even said, here, there's your John shout out. Drink, everybody. Zach Lowe even said, like, why is Fournier starting? Like, why is although Fournier didn't start on Friday, why can't you find 4 minutes, 2 minutes where Obi and Randle can play together and just see if this works? And it's because, like you said, it's what Tibbs likes at a certain point. By the way, I was in shock. I expected it to be Cam, but were you, your reaction when Quickly was announced as a starter on Friday?
I mean, all I'm saying is
Quickly was announced not as a starter on Friday.
Oh, not as, yeah. No, I wasn't,
that's what I meant.
wasn't surprised.
Yeah.
No, again, the reason why I took the over with 4 games was just because it's like, all right, you're telling me you can't find 4 games, but I do agree with the sense of maybe Tibbs just sees him as very much of an elite glue guy off the bench.
Mm-hmm.
And whether I disagree with that or not is a different story. And I do disagree with that. But again, it's like it goes to Tibbs and what he likes. And we may disagree. And I think our disagreements, there's merit to it. But he is structured. He's set in a lot of ways. And I guess I would hope that the way you can change his mind about playing Obi more, because it's Obi and Randle, is that Obi's able to have nights like game 2, where he's able to do more. And if he's doing it in practice and he's doing it in preseason and then hopefully in regular season games, then it's forcing his way onto, into more minutes.
Yeah.
So that feels like our only hope at the moment.
Man, that Friday game. And I had my overreactions on the post game. It was like Obi's done breakaway dunks before. We've seen that. To add on the 3-point shooting is what's going to make it hard to justify 11-minute Obi Toppin games. And I do think if he has it working, he will leave him in. I almost wonder, because you do bring up a good point that like Julius is a better creator, but I almost wonder if the fact that he's the third creator makes it less important to have a third creator like that. And it's like you go with Obi on the floor, especially if you're going to try and play with the pace that the Knicks apparently like to play with, Yeah,
but then if you're getting a softer version of Randle than you had last year, then wouldn't his ability to kick it out, and hopefully it's kicking it out in moments that aren't critical, right? Like not passing the ball to RJ when the shot clock hits 4.
Mm-hmm.
Being able to make smarter, more shrewd decisions. That's where I would hope it could work with Randle, but it's just, to me, Obi doesn't feel like a hub on offense in the same way that Randle can be. But Randle has flaws in the way that Obi can also, there are things that Obi does that Randle just simply does not do. It's finding the happy medium, but I think that you need to find someone who is, just generally speaking at the 4, you need to find someone who is efficient. You need to find someone who can lock in defensively. And you need to find someone who can hit an open shot. And it's why I have still maintained that the Knicks extending Randle was much more of, look, this is the business model that we tend to do. If we re-sign you, it's to either keep you long-term or to move you. And I really don't think it's in mind with keeping him long-term, but that's up for them to decide.
Yeah. Efficient, lockdown defensively. And what was the first one that you needed your 4 to be?
I said efficient, locked defensively. I think I said hitting open shot.
Open shot. Yeah, Randle doesn't do any of those. So that's why I'm like, okay.
He's gotten better defensively, but at least what we've seen. But he's got.
Yes. I guess my point is, if you have 2 creators, I don't necessarily need a third. I'll let the offense run through RJ and Jalen Brunson. Is that one of your overreactions? Anything about Jalen Brunson?
It's not, because
okay,
I love Jalen.
That'll be then. I'll just a quick one. Man, the Knicks have a point guard. Yeah. Oh my God, is it nice that the Knicks have? It's not even an overreaction. It's the proper reaction. The Knicks have a point guard, and it's really nice to see. I'm glad they legally attained him. I think if you run the offense to the 2 of them, a guy like Obi makes more sense. And look, I think the larger reaction, the overreaction I have here is if Randle doesn't have it going, and it's going to be, I think, the biggest test of whether Tibbs actually is going to reward like better performance. Like if this is a merit-based thing, if Obi has it going and Randle is 1 of 7, then there should be the opportunity that for games where Randle sits and Obi plays it out. You know, like if he's having one of those 2 for 11 games and Obi's like, let's just say he's got 15 points on 7 boards, but he's like the pace is quicker and they're competing. Does he then go back to his starting 4? You know, will we see Obi close games, if not play with Randle or start over him? You know, I wonder if that's a thing he pursues, similar to how he's probably going to use Quickly this year over Fournier when Fournier doesn't have it going. But we'll see. Jeremy, your next overreaction.
The next one is free throw shooting. So
good one.
The Knicks in their 2 contests are 37 of 42 from the line. Game 1, they were 11 of 15. Game 2, they were 26 of 27. So that 37 of 42 is an 88%. Do I think they will be an 88% free throw shooting team this year? I do not. That's a very high mark to achieve. However, they finished 26th in free throw percentage last year, and it was critical. And I think that it is not an overreaction, this number. Or the percentage, sure, it's a little inflated, but how important this is, I think we're going to see it, because the Knicks are going to drive the ball a lot. Jalen Brunson is incredibly crafty as he goes to the line, or as he goes to the rim, and he does draw fouls nicely. And he finishes well. So especially from the and one perspective, it's great. But RJ is going to do the same, right? Quickly has gotten stronger, and it seems he's doing a better job of driving the lane. I'm curious if Deuce is going to get minutes. I mean, I should actually just mention Derrick Rose before that. Derrick Rose certainly does that. Deuce McBride, if he gets time, he was a little trepidatious, it seemed, in Summer League to attacking the rim. Curious if he does get playing time, if he's doing more. Randall's going to get to the free throw line. He's going to draw contact. It's going to be crucial for them to make their free throws. And if they're able to do that, then I really think that's where that could be the difference between them being an okay team and being a good team. Hell, you could even say a mediocre team and being an okay team, or a mediocre team and being a good team. So, sprinkle it all wherever, but it's so frustrating to see this team miss easy free throws. And as they improve with players who are going to get to the line a decent amount, it's a great thing to look forward to. So I'm going to say, while the number is high, the fact that they're hitting their shots, not an overreaction.
I agree. It was really nice to see Brunson have like an off shooting night on Friday, but because of his ability to get to the line, get 9 of 9 from the free throw line, and he ends up with a very nice box score as a result, 16 points on 11 shots. And that's why having a point guard like that, having honestly your point guard be your best player that is going to be driving your offense, as you're mentioning, is going to give this team a different dynamic that they haven't really had in a long time, especially the last 2 years. I think my whole thing going in with the casino last week and any of the projections that I've made have all been that this is easily the best point guard they've had outside of like 3 weeks in January 2012. This is the best point guard they've had since Stephon Marbury. And he may make an all-star team. He's going to be in an offense with a guy who was basically an uncle to him. A lot of people have been making this point that he'll translate Tibbs, or the Tibbs interpreter that he'll be, is just kind of perfect of a role for him. I think that'll lead to their free throw shooting being even better. And look, I'll just mention Julius has only missed 2 free throws so far. He's 7 for 9 at this point. That is a ratio I will take for the upcoming season. Would like to see RJ get to the line more, but I'm not. I mean, it's again an overreaction to 2 games is saying RJ hasn't gotten to the line enough. Good 3-point shooting through 2 games though. Mm-hmm.
And 2 of those missed free throws, by the way, were by Emmanuel Quickly, who we know is an excellent free throw shooter. So, you could always say, hey, well, they could have missed 2 others another way. And that's totally true. But I don't anticipate Quickly missing a lot of free throws. The only thing I kind of worry about is Emmanuel Quickly missing shots to start the season when the regular season starts. And then for the 3rd year in a row, we get to have the joyous conversation of looking at Emmanuel Quickly's shots and how he's not hitting them. And yet he's taking good shots, and he just needs like 8 to 10 to 12 games to settle in before he really starts hitting them. But we'll cross that bridge at another point. Hopefully we don't cross it at all because it means that Quickly's hitting shots. But yeah, I mean, if there's anyone who I trust to hit free throws on this team, it is Emmanuel Quickley.
To that point, I noticed this in the third quarter. Indiana gets on Friday night. Indiana gets a technical foul. Who took the free throw? Julius Randle. I wrote it down as a note, like, okay, like Jalen Brunson's on the floor right now. The starting five was out there, I think. So I think Cam was out there. Like, I agree. Of the five, I think Randle's second, but there's a guy that's 9 for 9 from the free throw out there. Why is Julius Randle taking the free throw? It's a dynamic that I'm curious to see throughout the season if that changes, because maybe again that is to the point in the third quarter. If they were just like, let's run it through Julius so he has a nicer stat sheet, fine. The Knicks won in blowout fashion, so I'm not as concerned. I would very much like to. I just realized they scored 42 in the second quarter against Detroit, so they've scored 88 points in the second quarter through 2 games. That's nuts. Gee, I wonder what's the common denominator about the second quarter if a certain unit is out there. Speaking of the second unit for the Knicks, my second and final overreaction. The Knicks over both in all of your favorite sportsbook casinos as well as Claudio Casino is absolutely going to hit. This team is going, I would be fine saying 47, 46 at this point, because a couple things have happened. They have a point guard, as we've sung the praises of through the first however many minutes of this podcast. They have an elite bench with 2 to 3 guys that will be in consideration at some point, not for Sixth Man of the Year, but like for votes, right? Whether it be Quickly or Derrick Rose or Obi Toppin. That second unit is going to extend leads and cause blowout wins consistently throughout the season, like we saw with that 9-game winning streak. And the third, and probably the biggest factor here, and I don't know if you got to watch some out-of-town basketball this week, Jeremy, but the Wembanyama sweepstakes have begun. And the shameless tanking that's going to happen in the NBA at a certain point. I'm pretty sure in my spam folder is an invitation to minicamp from the Utah Jazz. Just like, hey, come try out. We heard that you have a wet jump shot. You know, I'm pretty sure they'll reach out to Benji, but they're too afraid he'll actually help them win games. The Knicks will not even consider this, whether they're a middle of the road team or not. They will try to win every game possible. And some might say it's to their detriment because they're getting further and further away from the best prospect that a lot of people have seen since LeBron James has been thrown out there. But having said that, because the Knicks will choose not to enter the Wembanyama sweepstakes, I wonder if that increases the amount of projected wins we can consider them for, because other teams will 30, 40 games into the season be like, all right, let's flip the script on this and fully enter the sweepstakes and turn into Portland last year. We're going to see like teams literally passing the ball to each other. Like, no, you lose the game. No, we'll lose the game. It's okay. No, we'll lose this one. Jeremy, what are your thoughts?
Well, first and foremost, I think if anyone thinks, the Knicks should try to get Wembanyama, there's nothing they could do to be among the 5 worst teams. And then probably even 7 worst teams. And then we get the beautiful conversation when the Knicks don't win the lottery of, great, they're picking 8th or 9th or they've fallen. And it's like, well, you should have tanked harder. Like, again, you have to, there's such a small percentage chance of doing it. We did the whole thing with Zion, right? We were the Knicks were in the best position possible. Wound up with RJ. I'm happy the Knicks have RJ. It's not Zion Williamson. Like, that's just the way it occurred, where they did the best thing they could to put themselves in the best position. Didn't work. Similar thing with this draft. In terms of the over-under with the teams that are just trying to lose, it's going to be fascinating, but I'm curious about the teams that are expected to finish or maybe projected to finish ahead of the Knicks. they won't be the ones to get in on the action. The Knicks play in what I think is probably the most competitive division in the NBA. Celtics are going to try to win basketball games. The Nets are going to try to win basketball games. The Raptors are going to try to win basketball games, and the Sixers are going to try to win basketball games. I look at divisions like the Southeast, where Orlando, is Charlotte going to try to take a step back? Is Washington going to try to take a step back if Bradley Beal has some sort of injury? And then you're looking at Atlanta and Miami padding that their stats, or, you know, in other divisions. I feel like it might help other teams more than it might help the Knicks. Not because it won't help the Knicks, but just these other teams will have more opportunities to play these bad teams. Like the Blazers, for example. I'm sure they love the fact that they are playing the Thunder a lot. I'm sure the Wolves feel the same way. And they get to play the Jazz too. I mean, that's like 8 games for both of those teams right there that they hopefully in their minds circle as a W. So it's not that I don't think it can impact the Knicks positively. There are times where I think it can. I wonder if it will more positively impact other teams that play these sad sacks more.
Well, I think it'll help those other teams more? Yes. That doesn't change my mind in the sense that like the 4 teams that they play 4 or 5 times, that's 16 to 20 games. That's still, and like I get it, like the Bucks exist, the Hawks, the Heat, the teams that actually are going to compete exist too. I'm just saying the Knicks are not going to be one of those teams. And as a result, in trying to win every night, like the Chicago Bulls are a team that I've been curious if they decide to just blow this thing up and say, Zach LaVine, we're shutting you down for the year at a certain point with some kind of phantom injury. DeRozan and Vucevic enjoy Los Angeles.
Well, they wouldn't, because the Magic get their pick.
Unprotected?
Oh, I think it's protected. Oh, well, it might be protected top 4, but
okay, that is an important clarification.
Right. But yes, I see what you're saying. It's more just like, I get it. I get what you're saying completely, especially with Lonzo being out. So yeah, I'll double check on that at this moment.
I'm just saying, like,
it's protected top 4.
So we're gonna see some. It's literally Houston from 2 years ago, then, where they had to finish in the top 4. So they were like, "We're good. We're just taking back salary filler and all of the picks." New Jersey. Wow, Freudian slip. Brooklyn. We're looking to get in the top 4 because OKC has our pick, which obviously led to Jalen Green. I just, your thoughts on Wembanyama? I've heard so many, that's the overreaction from the past week or not. And look, I trust the people that believe in him. When I hear best prospect since LeBron, is that too much for you? Because I personally think this is, I'm still trying. I said this on the live stream the other night. I'm still trying to make sense of him, like as like biologically a person that's 7'6" and moves like Kevin Durant.
He's so fun to watch that, you know, whether, I don't know, I was like 7'6" when LeBron was doing his thing in high school. So it's hard for me to compare that when I'm not quite that. I was pretty young at the time and I'm now not. But in terms of just enjoying Wembanyama, I mean, he's fantastic. I do wonder about durability, but I'm less concerned because he doesn't look as malnourished as some other players of similar build. But it's always a concern. I mean, like Rudy Gobert looked like Wembanyama when he came to the NBA, and he filled out very nicely. He did a great job, and he is now one of, if not the best defenders in the NBA. So I do wonder if his role, I'm curious about his role, because then you look at someone like Embiid, who finished second in MVP voting, and he had durability issues early on in his career, and now he is fantastic. So I want to believe in him because I think he's incredibly fun, and hopefully he makes the sport of basketball better. So yeah.
Get your drinks ready. This is where Zach Lowe actually nailed it in his evaluation of Wembanyama. The most important player of the season doesn't play for the NBA yet. And this is going to be the season.
Jacobitis.
Yes, Rokas Jacobitis. This is going to be the season of who's going to get him, and almost like a penultimate season until he's in the league. And looks like Scoot also looked amazing going head to head with him. So what is right now a 2-player draft could become one of the. This is going to be a race to the bottom. I don't care what anybody else is trying to say. If anybody in the middle has a chance to get to the bottom, I think they're going to try and take it. And that's, man, like you mentioned Gobert, he protects the rim like Rudy Gobert too, which is the crazy part. Imagine if Kevin Durant had Rudy Gobert's defensive skills and was 6 inches taller. It doesn't make sense, Jeremy. It doesn't. It's literally, again, it's like in 2K where when you can adjust the person's attributes and you just turn the height all the way up. It doesn't make sense. And yet it's going to be in the NBA next year. I'm
not looking forward to, though.
What?
The amount of fake trades, mock trades that are going to occur after the draft lottery when fans are like, not just Knicks. I mean, it totally different. There's like any team, literally any team that's like, hey, well, what if we traded you all of this for that? And it's like, what GM in their wildest, what GM is going to be like, yeah, we'll take not Victor Wembanyama and the package of quantity, whatever it may be, instead of just taking Victor Wembanyama. Like, if he's going to go first, and it seems like barring any injury and hopefully he stays healthy, he goes first. I don't know why any team would want to trade out of that spot.
Can I tell you what's worse?
Sure.
It's going to be I'll trade all this, but not RJ for Wembanyama. Like that's going to be worse. Like, I'll trade any amount of picks you want, but so-and-so is an untouchable, which
but I mean,
going to trust that won't happen, you know?
Sure. But I'm just thinking like the Jazz, right? Let's say the Jazz finish with the 3rd pick, and then even the 4 Jazz fans out there are like, hey, let's trade you all of the picks we have.
Yeah.
Okay. Or just
3.
The team just keeps Victor Wembanyama.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I agree.
Fun.
I think this is where I'll give Simmons some credit. Bill Simmons was like, there's 4 players in the league right now I wouldn't trade. It's like Luka, Jokic, Giannis, and I forget who the 4th was. And it was like, that's it, you know, and I don't blame him. And this is that type of prospect that we're looking at. Your last overreaction, Jeremy.
My last overreaction. I haven't seen this a ton, you know, but I'm sure there is a growing sentiment where this is out there. And it has to do with Cam Reddish, about potentially being out on Cam Reddish. And I think that is an overreaction. But having said that, there are concerns 100%. And you know, I think that one of the things I learned, and I'm not comparing these 2 players from a talent perspective, but it's living through the Frank Ntilikina hive mind as someone who was a big supporter of Frank's. It's more that at a certain point, you can't make up. I mean, not make up, but you can't keep using reasons that just aren't justifiable, right? Like, we know that this is an uphill battle for Cam Reddish, and he still has 2 other games at this moment where he can prove why he deserves to be in that spot. But the first game, injured, didn't play the rest of them. Potentially could have come back, but the Knicks held him out because it's preseason. I get it. The second one wasn't great, you know, like shot wasn't falling. Also in the first one, I mean, that travel was just, he could have gone baseline. Like, little things, you know, you see in the second game where there are opportunities where he's deflecting the ball nicely, and he's going to probably, when he's playing, do a nice job again of deflections per 48 or, you know, whatever it might be. So, but it all feels, it just doesn't come together. And I think he really needs to come to camp and preseason and show why he is unquestionably deserving of being in the rotation. And I know that Grimes hasn't played yet. And if Grimes does poorly, you know, it's like, oh, well, Cam and Grimes, you could do some sort of thing there. And again, Fournier is making $18 million. I think it's one thing to talk about Fournier coming off the bench. It's another thing to talk about Fournier out of the rotation entirely. And Tibbs is not going to go to 11-man rotation. And quite frankly, I don't blame him. I think 11 might be a little too much. It's more the rotations within the rotations of, you don't have to do hockey style switches. But with Cam, at a certain point, he's got to put it together. And I hope he gets the opportunity, but he's got to seize it right now. And through these first 2 games, what's generally held him back in the past being injury and just not playing the level of basketball that is required for someone who is the 10th overall pick. Through these overreactions of 2 games, just doesn't look great so far. Hopefully it changes, but.
So there's a word I want to adjust in what you said. There's one word, because I agree with everything you said, except you said he needs to come to camp and to preseason and show that he's ready to take a rotation spot. That should be needed. He needed to show up ready to take a rotation spot. Now, look, I have no idea what he looked like in training camp because we have no access to training camp, and all they show us are what MSG wants to show us. Through 2 preseason games, it has not looked like somebody that belongs in this rotation, just flat out. I don't think he should play over for at least as far as trying to win games. If you want to say for value purposes, he should get playing time just to see what he is. Fine. I agree with that analysis. I agree with that assessment. It's why I wanted the Knicks to not dump, but trade a couple of these veterans in the offseason or consolidate this roster. Having said that, I think Grimes helps them win more than Cam. I think Fournier helps them win over Cam. And I don't know what evidence there is otherwise from what we've seen through 2 games, what we saw last season. And I'll even give Tibbs credit. He's experimented with some lineups. He probably hasn't done it as much as I'd like him to. I'd like to see Obi play with Brunson. I'd like to see Hartenstein with the starting 5 a little more, like a little bit in for Mitch. But like his first 2 subs have been Quickly and Hartenstein at certain points in the first 2 preseason games. He's barely played Derrick Rose. I think my overreaction to Friday's game was like, all right, Cam, you're getting a start. I want to see you seize this opportunity. And you didn't. So I really do wonder what to take from all this now. Like the hype that's come from the Cam corner. I don't see it. I'm sorry. I'll buy me a crow if he goes to another team or even on this team shows up and is like a 20-point a game scorer or even just like Frank's not even the comp at this point. People think he should be in the starting, like he could be part of a big 3 with Obi and RJ, Jeremy. Like Frank, there was never okay. What he's going to be in Dallas this year, I do think that role was there for him on the Knicks. There was like, he should start. Like Frank is the truth, right? But I also think like he's settled into a role that I always thought he should have been perfect for on the Knicks, that the Knicks never consistently deployed him as. They're not asking, or at least Knicks fans are not asking for that from Cam Reddish. They're projecting so much more that I just flat out don't see. And I don't know if I can confidently like say I ever will see it, you know? So that's where I'll stay there.
The one clarifying thing I do want to say in regards to Frank is that it was a very different situation because you had players like Elfrid Payton ahead of him, Emmanuel Mudiay ahead of him. I mean, it's obviously very different than Cam Reddish being behind, say, RJ Barrett, or Obi Toppin's even going to need minutes that Cam could play there. I mean, obviously Evan Fournier being there, but as of this moment, it feels like Evan Fournier is able to provide more than Cam Reddish is. Does that mean that will always be the case? Can't tell you. And he needs the opportunity to be able to show it, but he also needs to take the opportunity. I do, you're saying he needed to be ready in camp. It's hard to speak on it just because it seemed like, even though with the injury he had last season that sidelined him, by all accounts, it seemed he came in healthy. So, and he seemed motivated, obviously, as Mark Berman clarified. He wants a bigger role. It doesn't necessarily mean wanting a trade, but he wants a bigger role on this team. And I mean, why wouldn't he? Of course he would want that. But you then start to wonder if the situation he had in Atlanta, if there's not some overlap that occurs here, just in terms of wanting minutes, but not being able to just take them. And that is the push and pull, right? Because you could say, oh, well, Obi deserves minutes. And he does things like he did in game 2. And you want him to keep doing that. But then there's someone ahead of him. So it's a challenge no matter what. And that's why it would have been ideal if the Knicks had found the opportunity to move Evan Fournier to give Cam Reddish that opportunity. But then I also think about, okay, well, if injuries occur, the rotation will probably shake out in some way anyway. If you are putting Cam Reddish in that spot as your backup wing off the bench in a key role, and you are worried about his health, what is your backup plan to Cam Reddish if you don't have someone who is a talented player or even a quality bench player? And then your whole team is suffering. And then, could you go to 9-man rotation? Sure. But there's just, it's not that it couldn't work. And it goes back to, again, it would have been nice if the Knicks had been able to move Fournier in some capacity just to create that space. But if Cam's not able to do things, again, they're two preseason games, even though we have a track record from last year a little bit where it was up and down. I hate saying it's concerning because, again, it's 2 games. And yet if we're just basing it off of 2 games and having overreactions to 2 games, it kind of is concerning. Yeah,
I'll overreact to 2 games. I don't see it. I came into the season not seeing it. So, look, as far as wing depth is concerned, that lineup he went to in the second quarter with Deuce at the 3, like that, I think said a lot to me about what they think of Deuce compared to what they think of Cam. Like they want to try and get Deuce into the rotation if they can. I almost wonder, like right now, centers aside, Cam, I think I asked you guys this last week, like Cam would be the 11th man. He would be the frank first man off the bench, right? I almost wonder if Deuce, because that's my other overreaction. Deuce needs to figure out a way into this rotation before Cam ever does. Especially defensively.
Yeah, but I don't think this season. I think this season's critical because of the fact that it is a contract year for Cam Reddish. And if this were baseball and you didn't have to deal with a salary cap, then I think, sure, like the sunk cost of Robinson Cano, it didn't matter because not to compare Cam to Cano, totally different situations. But
I know who you're talking about.
That's true. But in terms of with how Cam Reddish and the salary might work there, and then you've got Deuce McBride, who, he could be a free agent this upcoming year, or they could elect to take up the team option, and then he's an unrestricted free agent. But like the bottom line is, I don't see teams being like, "Hey, Deuce McBride, we're going to give you an amount that is something the Knicks aren't comfortable matching." The point I'm trying to get to here is that I think it's more important because of Cam and his contract situation, where you really, if you don't extend him, which I doubt the Knicks would do, but we've got about a week to see if they do. So, who knows? But because there is then a finite period in which they can trade him without going into sign and trade or qualifying offer and all that stuff that I don't think the Knicks want to deal with, period, he becomes a little bit more of a priority in my mind.
So going back to what Tibbs would do, I don't think any of that matters to Tibbs in his rotations. Now, if the front office actually does want to put a foot down and be like, we need to see what this kid is, I'll believe it when I see it.
But I think it's going to work its way out in some capacity is all I'm saying. Like I do think, I think it's inevitable. Look, we came into the offseason saying like, we feel Grimes should be starting, and then he's in a boot and missing the first 2 games. And Tibbs is saying that Fournier is the front runner to start. Grimes seems to be generally okay. So I don't mean to make it like this is a serious injury or anything, but it's just that type of mindset where guys get bumps and bruises, they miss time. It just happens, and how it shakes out. And if that's going to be Cam's opportunity to go in there and really show that he has this important critical role and something to offer, then he's got to do it then if he can't do it now. And through these 2 games, it hasn't been the best.
And I should mention, like, he was hurt. He got hurt the first game. So it's really through 1 game that I'm judging most of this off. I just was so disappointed that, like, okay, we're going to see it. You're getting a start. Like, seize this. And my real reaction to 1 game is, like, you didn't. This could have been like Obi Toppin changed a lot of minds potentially with his performance on Friday. Cam Reddish didn't. That's my simple takeaway for an overreaction to one game. Now, look, what's going to be funny is on Wednesday in Indiana when Cam has 6 threes in the first half. And the overreaction to that game would be like, you need to find any suitor for Evan Fournier on another team because Cam is the truth and needs to start over Grimes at this point.
And we motivated him, of course.
Obviously. Thank you, Cam. Thank you for subscribing to the Knicks Film School Podcast. You're welcome. Always believed in you. Don't know what you're talking about. Any other, just reactions to the season?
Not far? Really. I hate even reacting to before 10 games of the regular season. So I'm going to reserve judgment for a lot of these things until then. But
can I tell you a genuine reaction I had?
Yes.
So like the Knicks are back. Like basketball was back. And it was good to just we're back in the swing of things. We're not projecting. We're not going to every content creator we know trying to trade Julius Randle. We're not I love Cap or No Cap. I think we're the smartest off-season podcast that exists in the entire sphere of Knicks basketball podcasts. It was good to actually have basketball to react to this week. That's one, or A. And then 2B, I watched what happened in Golden State this week. And you've seen what's gone on in Brooklyn over the past year and in Los Angeles, in Boston, and the drama off the court that exists. And our biggest drama right now is will our veteran 2-time head coach of the year, will he play Julius Randle and Obi Toppin together and Emmanuel Quickly more minutes? I've thirsted for a team that it's strictly let's talk about basketball for so long. And that is my biggest appreciation about any type of progress this front office has done. All of my concerns are on the court. I have no concern off the court with them right now. I get it. There's a sleeping giant potentially in the owner's box that could change that with one trip to the studios of Michael K. Having said that, I really do only think about the basketball product with the Knicks right now. I'm going on Dan Favale's pod tomorrow night. And as much as the conversation about will he talk to the media, will the Knicks talk to the media or not will come up, I've consistently said to him, yeah, he probably should talk to the media. The Knicks basketball product still makes a lot of sense. And there's more questions there than anything about the media is concerned. And that's just a really cool thing to enjoy. And I'm really going to enjoy talking about Knicks basketball this season. And hopefully the drama that has come across this franchise in the past doesn't show up and we can keep it that way. So yeah, that would be my genuine reaction to this last week, that it seems to really be let's talk about what's on the court and not about who's off the court. So
agreed. And if you were looking for a Jordan Poole cap or no cap, he's not going to be on this podcast. Warriors aren't going to trade him.
Man,
if they're going to choose between him or Draymond Green, somebody tells me it's going to be the 23-year-old who broke out in last year's playoffs. Probably not the 32-year-old who,
That just punched a 23-year-old in the face.
Yeah, doesn't help. Does not help.
Jeremy, I get it. In a moment of fury, you do irrational things sometimes. I was actually empathetic to Draymond's press conference yesterday because I was man, he knows he fucked up. He knows he should not have done that. And I've been in situations where I made a split decision. It sucked. And millions of people didn't see it. So I don't have the benefit. I have the benefit of privacy with my stupid decisions. But man, did that show also just a sign of the Marcus Thompson piece about the situation was so perfect. The leadership aspect that he was supposed to bring to the team is just gone. I can't. The reaction from around the league, Fournier tweeting out, how are you teammates after that? How do you look to him and be my mentor in any way, shape, or form? And this is where you appreciate the Knicks had a Taj Gibson for moments like that, and veteran leaders like a Derrick Rose for moments like that. That's the baseline confidence that you don't. I know I just sung the praises of it. It's just because the Knicks haven't had that for so long. It's refreshing that we have that. Now, granted, I'd love to have the Warriors problems that we're coming off a championship, and whether or not we'll extend the 23-year-old or keep the core together is there. But for this season, I'm I'm actually really pumped about the basketball product, which is refreshing.
Agreed.
Yeah.
One last thing I'll say about I think that you hit the nail on the head with Draymond in terms of that mentor role. Because in my mind, I always thought, all right, if he's not staying with the Warriors, he's going to the Pistons, right? He's going home. He gets to lead that team. They have God knows how much cap space, a lot of it. They can afford to give him the JJ Redick type treatment. And now I'm like, all right, like, yes, he can learn from his mistakes. He can use that to his, to better himself moving forward. But at the same time, you look at, as Trae Young said, like he's trying to force his way to LA. Like, you're telling me that the Lakers wouldn't be like, yeah, we've got 30 some odd $1 million and we're just trying to do the best we can here. So we'll pay a clutch client to come over, take one from the Warriors. Warriors sign and trade him to LA because that works. They get a trade exception or whatever it is. Like there are ways they can be fine, but yeah, the mentorship part. He's seen as a leader, and you can use your whole life, your whole career to just do the right thing every single time, and it just takes one thing to kind of throw a wrench in that. And it's unfortunate, and hopefully for his sake he learns, and hopefully for Jordan Poole's sake he gets a max. Good for him. Get that bag. Also run up that Warriors tax bill.
Yeah, seriously. Okay, I think that does it for this episode. I do have a bit of an announcement to make, Jeremy. Knicks Film School, aside from our Twitter platform that we've been using for the past however many years, and Instagram, which I've started to update a little more. It's really just clips from the show. So follow us on both of those platforms if you aren't already, on Twitter and on Instagram. Same thing at Knick Film School. So Knick Film and SKOOL. But I'm happy to announce that as of today, when you're listening to this, we are now on the TikTok. Did I say that right? It's just TikTok, right? It's cleaner.
It's just TikTok.
We are now on TikTok under Knicks Film School. So there's an S in there, but it is SKOOL. Shout out to newcomer to the team, Ramsey Apostle. He goes by Ram or Ram. He is going to be part of the team running our TikTok account, updating it with clips and different trends going on TikTok. You're going to get to see John and Jeremy and Benji and Chris and myself featured on TikTok as we go forward. Does it sound like I'm so far into this platform and how it works that I'm just trusting Ram and hopefully he's able to make us superstars on this platform, Jeremy?
Yes.
Okay. Well, because that's the case here. I did create a TikTok account so I can be on the TikTok when these things happen. But having said that, I do recognize that my brother is on there all the time, and that generation and that platform is something we need to utilize. So as a result, thank you and welcome to the team, Ramsey. And it's going to be cool to work with you on this. I'm excited. I will have his TikTok and his Twitter in the episode description, both in YouTube if you're watching, and then if you're listening in the podcast episode here, go give him a follow, as well as a couple of our other newcomers, whether it be Justin, our new associate producer, who's been helping me out on the post games, or Sean with a W, who is the host of our Saturday morning, or at least as of now, Saturday morning, might vary throughout the season, Knicks KFS Study Hall, which is going to be our official Twitter Spaces show, which has been showing up on your podcast feeds over the past couple of weeks. Is there anything else, Jeremy, before we get out of here?
I think we are all set, Andrew.
Are you're into baseball, right?
I don't know what that is. Oh, no, I do know what that is. Yes, I am.
So you are into baseball. I haven't watched in years. Are you? I think I saw yesterday that the team you root for, they play in not Brooklyn, the Bronx. They're playing Cleveland on Tuesday. Are you excited for that?
I am, although I think I'm going to be missing probably every single game, as it will be my turn.
Oh yeah, you're going
take the PTO that corporate America gives me. So hopefully I will see it. Stressful, exciting. Love playoffs, hate playoffs. It's all great and terrible.
Well, good luck to you and the Stripes. That's what they're called, right? The Stripes?
Yes, they're called the Stripes.
Good luck to... I'll drop the bit. Good luck to all the Yankee fans out there for the ALDS. You will know if I am also going to be enjoying postseason baseball at the time you're listening. It's first inning as we're speaking, so I'm going to go watch the game and hopefully not want to die by the end of it. Thank you for listening, everybody. If you dig the show, head over to iTunes and drop a 5-star rating and a review. We just passed 500 reviews, so thank you for helping us get past that. The road to 600 now begins. Head on over to iTunes, 5 stars. Those really help us out. We'd really appreciate it. We're on Patreon. We have a Discord on Patreon. We have so many cool things coming up over the next week or so before the Knicks play a game that matters next Wednesday. But until next time, thank you for listening. Enjoy the week, and we'll speak with you soon. Peace.